Welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast. I'm Rich Mellon, host of Trapping Inc. And I have today as a very special guest, a very longtime friend and business partner, TJ Schwanky. TJ, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. The first for me. I'm a podcast virgin.
Oh,
Yep.
no. Yeah, I forgot how much your voice booms. The people will be wincing on that one. We'll get it. We'll get a set here. We'll get a set.
All right.
Well, first off, I guess it behooves me to make a full and clear declaration that we have been business partners for 20 years.
More than that, I think.
More than that?
Yeah, because Outdoor Quest has been going. This is our 20th season of it, and we started on doing the pools at sportsman shows quite a few years before that.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of age, isn't it?
Well, I'm younger than you, so it's okay.
Yeah. Is it like 3-4 months? Or?
It's still months.
So that was we started out working in sportsman shows, and it was a pool. We produced a pool.
Well, and the cool thing was back then, we were doing a lot of seminars at sportsman shows, and what they had there for our demonstration pools was pretty lame. And got to know you a little bit and saw that I think you kind of had the same vision I had, and together we figured we could take on the world, and we developed a heck of a presentation stage and pool and fish and everything. It was awesome.
Well, yeah, like how many gallons of water did the big pool hold?
It was like 5,000 gallons of water.
5,000 gallons, and it was a couple feet of water deep, and we put these big bloody trout in it. Remember that one year? That one year we ended up with Arctic char.
Yeah, shh.
No, it is ancient history.
Yeah, no, it was a great, and I mean we still do it occasionally, but back then we were doing a lot with that. We were going to a lot of shows, and it was a big feature. And I guess that's kind of what got us down this road. Is there wasn't a lot of people back then kind of treating what we do as a business. I mean, I remember going to SHOT Show the very first year with the TV show, and there were 40 TV shows there.
Yeah.
And oh my God, like how are we ever going to compete with 40 TV shows? When I was there last year, there was 800.
Yeah, I know. And everybody with a blog or a vlog or everything out there is there. And do you remember? I mean, we were so far ahead of the curve. We were on another planet. We were doing a combination hunting and fishing show, and it had you and I and our significant others, our spouses.
Oh yeah, no, it was cutting edge at the time, and there was no network in Canada even at the time. There was nowhere to broadcast, so we did. No. So we started an outdoor channel in the U.S.
Yes, we did. I can remember that, and it was huge. The feedback that we got, though, it alternated between, guys that talk to me, guys being guys, right? It alternated between, you're so lucky, does she have a sister? Somebody, I wish my wife would go hunt. The other guy saying, you poor bugger, you can't even escape her out in the bush.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, times are changing so much with couples, you guys doing the trapping, us doing the hunting. I mean, it's become a real way for couples now. And, we get so much, correspondence at the show and things like that from couples.
Oh, we do too.
Yeah.
We'll move on to that in a minute. But first, let's talk about you. Like, how did you get your start? Like, was hunting and fishing in your DNA, or?
Well, I mean, my dad, my grandpa, everyone were fishermen, but I had zero hunting influence in my life.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe people are born hunters sometimes. And I think I was just born a hunter. My biggest influence was Jack O'Connor reading Outdoor Life. And that's why I've still got a lot of love for the magazines, the television shows. I think they foster a lot of kids to take it up. I would have never, ever taken it up, had I not been able to read about sheep hunting and outdoor life when I was 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, O'Rourke and reading about, death in the tall grass and all that kind of stuff. I never believed that I would ever get to go hunt Africa.
Oh, no, absolutely. And my parents were awesome. They fostered that love, but really weren't able to give me a lot of help. I mean, Mom would drive me out to the goose field and leave me, but but I wasn't old enough to drive, right? So, but it was a big help. No, they were really good about it, but they couldn't offer any help, so they tried to get some of their friends to help. But I really had zero hunting influence, and I learned everything the hard way.
Yeah, and you know what? But I mean, God bless them. At least they encouraged you, and like you said, she dropped you out. She drop you off. You couldn't do that today. Drop off a kid with a gun in a goose field.
You couldn't do what I did back then either. I mean, I would take my 12 gauge and put it in my locker at school because I was going hunting after school. And I don't know. Nobody ever got shot at my school.
No. I can remember when we were gonna go, we'd be going deer hunting after school, and so I'd take my 308. Well, actually, that's a lie. It wasn't deer hunting. It was moose. I mean, we hardly ever hunted deer. We liked moose, so I'd be going moose hunting, and you'd pack your 308 off to school. The bus driver was a hunter, a fan, so I'd sit up there and we'd talk cartridges and that. Put it in my locker at school, and after school we off we go hunting.
Yeah. Try not to give anyone a heart attack listening, but
They're kind of used to that that from us. So you grew in, you developed that passion, that love for hunting and fishing. I remember for your 50th birthday. Not spoiler alert, he's over 50 now. Your mom gave me a bunch of pictures in that so I could do that DVD for your 50th birthday. I seen you made an attempt at taxidermy.
Yeah,
and you moved on from that.
I did. I realized I was good at some things, and I realized I wasn't good at some things. So.
Yeah, I give you a hard time about that, but I mean, what kid hasn't tried that, right?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, I can't even remember the course. It was the Advanced Taxidermy School of America or something, and took it online.
On the back of a matchbook?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had the same thing in knife making. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had this saw blade, and there was a knife hidden in there somewhere. To this date, it's still hidden. I never did get it out of there. So you grew up, and you're actually you were born and you come from Manitoba.
Yeah, I was born in Winnipeg. Kind of worked up northern Manitoba for hydro for a while, and came to Alberta on a holiday.
Yeah.
And looked at the mountains and said, "That's home." So
Yeah.
the next year, moved out here. Didn't have a job. Didn't have anything. I just knew I wanted to live near the mountains, and saw some bighorn sheep when we were out then, and just still, going back to O'Connor.
Yeah.
Reading about his sheep hunting and everything, and this is where I was going to live, and I did.
That's cool. You live in the shadow of the mountains in Cochrane, Alberta.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it's 45-minute drive. I'm putting a backpack on and sheep hunting. And even at my advanced age, I can still get up those mountains.
I tell you what, getting old ain't for wussies.
No, it's sure not. It's better than the alternative, though.
Yeah. The dirt in the face stuff. Yeah. So, your partner in crime.
Oh, Vanessa, she's awesome. So when I met Vanessa, she had never hunted, killed anything, like not a gopher, nothing. So she's like, "I want to go hunting." I'm like, I don't know if I really the guys want to go hunting and everything else. I'm like, I don't know. So I made it really hard for her. I'm like, okay, you're going to have to take your hunter safety. You're going to have to get your pal. There's a whole lot of, hoops to jump through. Well, a week later, she jumped through all the hoops.
Oh yeah, she's a check mark in the box lady.
Yeah, no, and I do believe people are born hunters, and I've said that. And I think she's another one. She just never had that opportunity at all as a child. But man, the second she got a taste of it, and she doesn't come hunting with me. I more often go hunting with her.
Yeah, that's a good way though.
Oh, it's awesome. I wouldn't want it any other way. And I mean, it allows us to spend a lot of really good time together. And, we travel a lot of the world. And I don't know if we travel to hunt or we hunt to travel. But either way, we go a lot of places of the world together and, experience it all. And it's truly amazing.
Oh, it is. It is. And when you've got a partner that does it, I know that it's funny because probably it's probably split like, 80%, 20% kind of thing. You're so lucky, 80%, 20%, you can't get away from her. And Sandy has always been my partner, always, I mean, just my buddy, my partner, my wife, my lover. I mean, there was no dividing up the tasks, right?
Yeah.
It was all the one same person. So I can't imagine doing any of that. And you always believe that you have the most specialist in the world. So I don't know whether you have what we have, but I think you got it pretty good.
Oh, no, I do. Awesome. And I mean, everyone kind of sees, the exciting parts of our lives when we're out hunting and we're doing this. But, our typical night at home is, sitting at the reloading bench. I mean, that's date night for us, right? Or, we're in the edit suite picking music for a show or something like that. Like our entire lives revolve around, either the TV show or something to do with hunting, and not begrudgingly at all. I mean, it's what we do for a passion. Everyone says, "Don't you guys ever go on a vacation?" I'm like, well, why? Like, we get to see the world and hunt at the same time. Why would I want to go sit and do nothing?
Well, we're here in Edmonton, and we just set up today for the Boat and Sportsman Show. We produced the kids' fishing pond, so we got the water in. We got the pond put together with the water in. The fish come tomorrow, and you walk around the sportsman show. There's invariably somebody, a retirement management fund or whatever there, and they always say to me, "What are you gonna do when we retire?" And I tell them that I hunt and fish and trap for a living now. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And they quit talking. Yeah, don't want to talk to me.
Oh, I know. And that's what I keep telling people. We're kind of getting to that age now where a lot of people around us are retiring and thinking about retiring. And that's the last thing on my mind. Somebody asked me the other day, how many more years are you going to do Outdoor Quest? I'm like, I don't know. Hopefully another 20, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see my life without it.
And talking about that TV show now, when we started it was a very different world than it is now.
Oh, my goodness. Is it ever? Well, like I say, there was no network in Canada at all.
No. And then how many years? We aired originally 6 or 7 years in the U.S.
Yeah.
6 or 7.
I can't remember. Time all kind of blends together at this time of life.
Yeah. And about at that point, had the Wild TV started in Canada or not?
No, I think Wild TV didn't start. It was either 3 or 4 years after we first started airing in the U.S. So we aired our very first year in the U.S. in 2000.
Okay.
And so we've been producing. No, sorry, it was 1999 is when we.
Yeah.
No, 2000. We started shooting in 1999, and our first year airing was in 2000. So we're in our 20th season of broadcast.
Right.
This year, and I remember going to SHOT Show in '99 and coming home so pumped and talking to you. We need to start a TV show.
Yeah.
And you were like, "What?" I'm like, "Just give me money. We need to start a TV show."
I remember the challenges because we had to form a U.S. company, and because nobody wanted to deal with us, we were across the border, and we're in a foreign country, and I mean we don't look at it that way. I mean, being Canadians, I mean they're just our southern neighbors and that kind of stuff. But I remember the challenges. And the money, oh my God, the money that it took to be on Outdoor Channel in those days.
Oh, it was huge. I mean, compared to nowadays, it was probably nothing. But, back then it was a big chunk of change. And, if you lost 1 or 2 sponsors, you were into your mortgage kind of thing. And it was frightening. It was a big jump to do. And, people always say, oh, you're so lucky to have a television show and everything else. And it was just hard work. And I mean, we both busted our butts to make it work. And, we were just talking about that today. Like, we turned a profit from day one. And it's because we treated it as a business, not because we were geniuses or anything else.
Number 1 lesson, it's a business. Number 2 lesson is whatever you settle for your first price, it's never going to get any better. So if you're going to work for a free bow or whatever, that's what you got is free bows.
Yeah, and that's what your value is going to be. That's what people are going to look at you. Like if you go in there and ask for, product or whatever, okay, well, you're worth product. That's all. And you're 100% right. So and it depends what people want to get into. Like, I mean, there's a lot of great pro staff and stuff like that out there nowadays, and they're the backbone of this industry. But, if you want to get into this as a business, you're 100% right. It needs to be a business.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why we kind of clicked as a partnership in the beginning, is because we both had that same, good work ethic, that good business drive. We were both crappy salesmen.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Oh, man.
I can remember a lot of sleepless nights, but it was never, we were just going forward, always going forward.
100%.
It was, I don't know, lack of brains, not bright enough to lay down and die. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we've both been self-employed since ever, right? Like, I had a job for 2 years of my life, I think, and then I've been self-employed ever since. And you've been the same. So I think neither one of us have ever been afraid to take a risk. And, it's nothing magic we did. It's not like we were handed the TV show from our families or anything like that. We built it up from the ground, and, people getting into this, that's what it takes.
Do you remember though? We were just at the point, just as analog and digital, we're duking it out. And it was scary because we always equate it to the days of VHS and beta, right? And we both chose the wrong format there. Because beta was clearly superior to the VH format, but VH ended up winning out. So we were just at the point where we were going from linear to digital, but what was going to win out? So we ended up working with cameramen and working with Edit Suite and all that. But if you were hunting, I was standing there beside the cameraman telling him what shot he needed, because cameramen just do not understand. I never forget. We were up hunting in Caribou, up in the north, and I says, she's going to shoot the big one. I was talking to the cameraman. What Sandy was going to shoot was the big one,
which is pretty obvious to you.
Yeah. There was 500-600 caribou out there, but there was only one 400-inch bull, But he didn't know.
Yeah.
So you had to be there to tell a cameraman what to do. You had to sit in the edit suite to tell him, this shot goes with this shot, But basically, when we were paying them, we were renting them for their equipment, so we didn't get into $70,000 camera, and we didn't get into what was that edit suite
It
worth
was
back
like
then?
$250 or $300,000. I still remember there was this huge bank of hard drives.
Yeah.
It was 16 gigs.
Yeah.
Big fans on it.
My phone lane over there has 32 or 64 gigs in it.
But I still remember that. We were just like, wow, each one of those was 4 gigs.
Do you remember? Do you remember the soundboard was twice the size of this coffee table? And you slide this up. Oh yeah, that's way better. Yeah, like I knew.
But in a lot of ways, I mean, the digital, like it was a real cusp where we got in, but I'm glad we got in right then because it allowed us to quickly learn the industry. And I'm glad we learned on tape because I still think tape editors are way better editors than those who learn digital because you never had to learn what actual B-roll was. Kids nowadays talk about, oh, I got to shoot some B-roll, but they have no idea what it was, that you had to have another tape, number B, to put over both sides of number A where you made the edit.
Yeah.
And so you became a very good editor. And, we're both students of everything we do. And like you say, we're watching him push buttons, but we were telling him what the cuts were and everything else. So it was pretty easy once the digital world came along to learn how to push the buttons, and the investment was so much smaller.
Oh my goodness, yes. So the thing that immediately went out was mini digital tape.
Mm-hmm.
Very briefly, there was a large shell digital, but then I went to the mini digital, and we progressed through there and through various edit suites, and now it's so reasonable to get into.
No, it really is, and I think that's why there's such a proliferation of TV shows. Unfortunately, not everyone's learned the craft.
That's right.
They can buy the technology, but they still haven't learned the craft.
Well, I can remember a guy comes into me and he's got a big deer, and he even brings he brings the tape that he wants me to look at. And it was tape back then, and he's got this big white-tailed deer, and so I said, okay, so we cue it up in the edit suite, and I'm watching it, and you watch this deer for an hour and 40 minutes as it works its way across the field. All of a sudden, boom, the deer falls down. Now, for the very first time, we meet the hunter as we watch his butt go running out towards the deer, and he's carrying on. I says, well, how do I do anything with that?
Yeah.
I said, you don't have a single cutaway here, how that deer got across the field, other than an hour and 42 minutes of watching it walk. I don't know who you are until you go running out there. Try and explain all those pieces that he needed. And he was just crestfallen. And I would have dearly loved to use the footage because it was a nice big deer.
Yeah.
But they don't understand. Today, so many people, there's so many jump cuts. And I think that's part of the internet.
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, and editing on phones, editing right on cameras and things is pretty common nowadays, right? So you don't have a lot of options. But and I think just getting back to the cameraman thing, I think that's why I really like hunting so much. Vanessa, like we don't have a cameraman. Like we do hire a couple times a year when we need some stuff done. Yeah. But for the most part, it's just her and I, and it's just you and Sandy.
Yep.
And I don't have to say a word to her. Like she knows which animal I'm going to shoot, and I don't have to worry, and I don't have to smell some guy's socks at night, in my room and stuff. So. But it's nice. Like I like
okay. On tape here, we're saying that Vanessa smells better than. How many hotel rooms have we shared?
That might have been where that was coming from. But no, it's great, and people are always shocked when we show up at a shoot, and they're like, "Where's your camera crew?" I'm like, "Well, we're here." Like, she films, I hunt. She hunts, I film, and it's such a good union, and there's just. There's so much left unsaid that it just happens.
And you have to have that mix, that magic, in order for it to work.
Oh my God, yeah.
I cannot imagine. Well, I mean, you watch any of the big productions, and it's the same cameraman, because the cameraman eventually becomes well known or becomes a star in their own right. But you have to have that magic going on between the person on camera and the cameraman. They have to understand. They have to be able to communicate without communicating, right?
Exactly.
And it's so, we're so lucky that it's our spouses,
Oh, totally. And I mean, she's involved in the editing, picking music, and all that stuff as well. So I mean, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. But the finished project is a real, it's a team effort.
I notice your shirts are getting better too. She's picking them too, huh?
Yeah, she does. We got lunch on this one. She'll be happy.
Yeah, we just ate at our favorite Vietnamese place.
We did.
It was good lunch.
I changed my shirt after it. So.
So back when we started, we were North American. It was all North American.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the market at the time. And truthfully, I'd never really thought about hunting overseas, and Really, probably didn't think I could afford it. And I think as we go through life as hunters, our priorities change. And they talk about the 5 stages of hunting, And I honestly believe we do progress through those stages. I don't think you're always in one stage. I think, you can be in stage 5 and stage 1 and stage 3 at the same time. But there is a definite progression of what you take away from the hunts.
Do you know what the 5 stages are? I'm going to put you on, on the spot.
So it's the first one is just killing.
Yeah.
Like you just want to kill something, and then you want to limit out.
Yeah.
And then there's another one.
Collector.
Yeah, collector, and then method, and then finally experience.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for helping me on the one there. Yeah, that's why we're a good team.
I've been in a lot of camps where the collector was.
And a lot of people unfortunately seem to end at that point.
Yeah.
And we travel a lot to hunt, and it was so funny. We went to the Grand Slam Ovis show last year, and which is kind of the ultimate collector show. And not criticizing anyone who likes to go out and get slams and things like that. I'm just not that guy.
Right.
I hunt for a lot of different reasons, but every booth you walked up to, it was like, so what do you need?
Yeah.
I'm like, a good experience.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the wrong answer, right? Like, so it was kind of funny, but thank God we have those people too. It kind of drives our industry, and I'm the last one in the world to ever judge anyone of why they hunt, as long as they're doing it ethically, legally, kind of thing. But
absolutely,
for me, I just really like the adventure. Just seeing the new places, the new cultures, and I guess that comes with being an old guy too, right? Like, there's not much I haven't seen done in Alberta 54 times.
Well, part of it though is that the world kind of moved on, and it became so with more people coming to Alberta, and that there just wasn't as much opportunity. We could no longer get enough tags.
Well, yeah, you're 100% right. Like, there's not even a general moose tag for a rifle hunter in the province anymore.
No.
So that's the point we're at now. So, I mean, that's another really valid point. And I love to hunt.
Oh.
I'm not going to quit hunting just because I can't get tags here. So, I mean, I love hunting Alberta. It's still my favorite place to hunt. And, the bulk of September through November, we're spent in Alberta. But you're right. I don't get enough opportunity here anymore. I draw a mule deer tag every 9 years. I draw a moose tag every 7 or 8 years. So,
yeah, exactly.
Antelope's probably going to be 20 years.
I mean, you can kill lots and lots of bear, but
yeah.
So, a couple of years ago, Sandy and I took on Trapping Inc. full time.
Yep.
And you guys took on Outdoor Quest full time.
Yep.
And now you've rebranded a little bit, made it your own. What would you say the focus of your show is?
I think more the adventure of the hunt. The kill is, I wouldn't say it's secondary. It's always going to be part of the hunt. We hunt ultimately to kill. And it really bothers me when people say, oh, the kill isn't important. You know what? It is. That's what
Absolutely.
That's what defines the hunt. Like, if you're not going to kill, you're not hunting. But it's not the most important thing. It's getting to the hunt. It's experiencing everything. And I think that's why we've become such travel bugs. It's so cool going to Africa and being like 6 years old again. What's that bug? What's that animal? Yeah. I love that, right? And it's...
You sound like you've traveled with me. With me, it's vines. What vine is that? What drives my wife crazy? Drives everybody else around me crazy too. But I don't know what I got this thing about vines. We were turkey hunting in Pennsylvania, and they have wild grape vines everywhere, right? And lots of places they're very substantial, and they'll be hanging off a big oak tree or whatever, and they'd swing out off them over the hillside. And Pennsylvania is fairly hilly and rocky. That was just fascinating. So I wondered what all these vines were. Until the guy says, "I don't know, it's a vine." Okay.
Well, our first time in Africa, you'd heard all the stories. Everything's poisonous there. So every bug we see, is that poisonous? Is that poisonous? And finally, the guy was like, "Probably."
Just shut up and leave me alone.
Exactly.
Don't touch it. Don't pet it.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I really enjoy, we are older, so we're not, the young bucks that we used to be. So I think with that comes a little bit more sedation, maybe, but you enjoy things a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be the pace that it was before.
Oh, you stop and smell the roses for sure. Like when we were in Africa last year, this ranch we were on, he had 70 sites on there with Bushman paintings on them. And some of these paintings were 20,000 years old. Yeah. Older, like way older than the pyramids even.
Oh, and here's a crazy tangent altogether. When they decided that they wanted to reduce the number of animals that were in South Africa. So they wanted to determine what was indigenous for certain areas, and that there was only going to be indigenous animals in the area. They actually went by the cave paintings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so if they could find a cave painting anywhere that showed, the blue duiker or whatever on it, well, then that was an indigenous animal.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like some of these paintings were, I don't know, probably 40, 50 feet long. And then some of them were in very small caves. Some of them were big caves. And, we spent a whole day just caving and looking at these paintings and kind of forgot about hunting for a day. Like to me, that was just so precious. Like who has seen 20,000-year-old paintings in their life?
I know, and they have so much of it, and you were allowed to walk in, and you could have touched it, I imagine, if you
Oh,
wanted to.
yeah.
And, like
Like it wasn't cordoned off. It wasn't, there was no, like most people probably didn't know about it. I think they were documented, but there was no visitor site there or anything.
so. You focus on the travel, the adventure hunting. What are the biggest challenges in that?
I think not being an expert.
Yeah.
And I always say, and this is when people go on their first hunt abroad, like whether it's Africa, New Zealand, whatever, that's the time in their life when they're the biggest expert. And after you've been there 4 or 5, and like we're just going on our 10th trip to Africa, and I realize now like how little I know. And I think that comes back to just stopping and smelling the roses. We always want to make everything North American.
Oh, yeah.
And, we should manage animals in Africa like we do in North America. And, we should hunt this way. And once you stop doing that and stop being an expert, because we're good hunters here. Like I'm a good hunter in North America. I'm a rank rookie in Africa, even after 10 trips. So I think that's what probably one of the biggest challenges for people going abroad is to just kind of forget everything that you think you know, because you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just take it in.
Oh, absolutely. The logistics were, they're not as challenging as everybody believes. You can hunt with their guns or hunt with your own guns. So exports, imports, and that it's actually pretty simple in today's world.
Oh, it really is, and I think everybody gets freaked out about that. I mean, I remember reading somebody's post the other day. They were going to Africa, and somebody asked them if they were taking their own gun, and they were like, "Oh no, I'd have to start that paperwork process a year in advance if I was going to do that." I'm like, "No, you could do it like 2 weeks out."
Yeah.
You say it's not that hard, and there's lots of people to give you good advice on that nowadays. They've made it quite simple.
First trip to Africa, number one biggest surprise.
That it wasn't all jungle.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I was like, that's a farm.
Yeah, and it was the same. Like, and we had in Namibia for the first time, which is a very arid part of Africa.
Yeah.
It was like, there's a lot of desert in this jungle. But I think all our lives, Tarzan of the jungle, right?
Well, exactly. I was waiting for where is the jungle, and finally you get over against the coast and that on the Indian Ocean, and there's jungle, yeah.
And I think the second one for me is the will to live of the animals there, and I think that just comes being so heavily predated on. Everyone says, "Oh, African animals are so hard to kill." They're not hard to kill at all. Nope. They have the same lungs, the same heart, everything ours do. They're easy to kill if you put the bullet in the right spot. But I'll tell you what, if you put it in the wrong spot, then they become really challenging to find because, they've just got this survival instinct that our animals don't seem to have.
I know when we hunted bushbuck, and a little bushbuck's just a little critter. I don't know.
Really small. I've missed one, so I know how small they are.
Not that small. Were you wearing your glasses that day? I don't know, 120 pounds?
Oh, and a big one, I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah, 110 maybe. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, anybody that hunts them seriously, everybody over there, every PH has 1 or 12 Jack Russells, right? And every one of them has a gouge or a scar or a rip in it from a bushbuck.
Oh, and there's lots of hunters that have gouges and scrapes in them too from bushbucks. They're incredibly violent little animals.
And they're a lot like whitetail in the ways that they go where they want to. Fences don't hold them or any of that kind of stuff. You hunt them usually on those shoulder, like they like to get out in the morning in that shoulder period when the sun is first starting to get warm, and then towards evening, that kind of stuff. I found a lot of similarities that way.
Yeah.
But they say that was the biggest thing that our RPH was going on and on and on about was make sure you killed it because he didn't want to have to go in after it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, really? It's a little critter like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But then you notice that one dog has got its hip stitched back on, and another guy's got a rip down and it's all from bushbuck.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing is when you go to Africa, you learn so much, and everyone goes like, "Why do you keep going back?" And I'm going, because we discover something new every time. I think most people's vision of Africa is you drive into a 5,000-acre pen and hunt animals that aren't very afraid. Even in South Africa, there is so much free-range hunting. We're going back this year. We're hunting sheep in 8,000-foot mountains. I think you're going to one of the same places.
Yes. Yep.
So who thinks there's 8,000-foot mountains in Africa to start with? It gets -20 in the wintertime there, and we're going in the winter. We're going to be spike camping up in the mountains. cows, hunting sheep. They're all free range. We ran caracal, which is very much like the lynx here.
Yeah.
We ran them with hounds there. We did night hunting with infrared there. We've done bird hunting there. Every time we go, we were just talking to somebody at the Africa show a couple weeks ago. They've got 10 to 14 pound largemouth bass in a lake there.
Yeah.
That they routinely catch, and nobody's fishing for them.
Well, it's funny because we have a lot of fans from Africa, South African, that follow us, and whenever we post pictures of Sandy catches another 25-pound pike or whatever, and then right away all these people and they are huge on fly fishing there.
Yeah,
and they want to catch these pike on flies, right?
Yeah. No, it's pretty cool, and I think it's just discovering all those different things and taking advantage of those is what really drives me to keep going back. I've been there, killed the kudu, the gemsbok, eland, things everybody hunts the first time they go.
Yeah.
But it's just finding all these little niche things. And I think that's what we really try to feature in the TV show is all these niche things you can do that kind of make it way different than what everyone else is doing when they go over there.
And I mean, TV is pretty restraining, like as far as how much you can show in that. But to be able to, there are days over there when I've been up on the Cap Rock and looking down through a river valley, and we're hunting nyala or whatever, and that sun comes up, and I just wish I could bottle that and release it in the room and let you know what that feeling is like.
Yeah, and people are so under the impression it's so expensive to hunt overseas. In places like Africa, there isn't a better deal in the world. I mean, if you go to Mexico 2 years in a row, you can go to Africa and probably have a 10 animal safari with your spouse.
Yeah.
It is super affordable, and you will never experience that level of service in your life anywhere else in the world.
So you've also discovered Europe.
Oh my God. Europe is my passion right now. And here's another thing about thinking you always know everything about somewhere else in the world. Oh, everywhere in Europe's a fenced estate, right?
Yeah.
Fenced hunting is actually legal in most of Eastern Europe.
I was astounded when we hunted ibex in Spain, and they wanted us to go hunt roe deer? Roe deer in France. And I was like, you can hunt in France?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been really concentrating on Eastern Europe here the last couple of years, Poland, Romania, places like that. It's still the Wild West. Hunting's a big tradition there. Like hunting is big there, but foreign hunters coming to hunt there is so new. When you take Romania, Ceausescu was a dictator there till 89.
Yeah.
So it's a young country. So we hunted a place there called the Plains of Sacador. And the Plains of Sacador, it's kind of a big V shape. It's about 10 kilometers on the sides and about 10 kilometers at the bottom. And it kind of goes up into all this timber. So for most of the years, there's probably like 300 or 400 fallow deer on these plains.
Right.
When the rut comes, there's 3,000 to 4,000 fallow deer move onto these plains to rut for about a month and a half, and then they all leave again. And I remember the first morning, and if you've ever hunted fallow deer before, you know how vocal they are, how aggressive they fight, everything. So we climb up into this high seat just to start getting some video. And as the sun's starting to come up, it's just croak, 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 crash, crash, crash. And it was just like the curtain lifting on this play. And it was just all of a sudden, it was a sea of bucks. And there was a lot of the bucks had moved in yet, but the does hadn't showed up in the big numbers yet.
Yeah.
So there was all this fighting and interaction. It was probably one of the most amazing mornings I've ever had in my life as a hunter.
They're an amazing animal. They're roughly a little bigger than a whitetail.
Probably smaller, actually.
Smaller?
Yeah, I'd put them in that 150 to 175 pound range, probably like a doe whitetail, like a big buck.
Yeah. Okay. The ones we hunted in Africa were a little bigger body than that, but the way they call is amazing. They sound for the world like a bullfrog.
Oh, they totally do. And they're just nonstop for and there was kind of those shoulder hours like it always is, but that 2 hours as the sun was coming up, it was almost deafening. And, things never capture on the camera as good as you think they do when you're there. This sound was, my hair was standing up on my arms hearing this sound when we were editing it. It was that good. Yeah,
well, you're reliving it again too, right?
Oh, totally.
Totally right back into it. I know that. I've had that happen, in the edit suite many times too. You were saying though that the plains of
Sacador,
that only royalty had ever hunted them until very recently.
Like for 500 years, it was probably the exclusive hunting grounds of kings, and then Ceausescu had his own. There's still the Ceausescu stand, like high seat there. Like
Wow.
it was named after him. That was where he hunted.
So what is their traditional way of hunting there then?
Well, a lot of it was high seat hunting when we were there, so it's basically like a tree stand, but it's man-made.
Right.
So the one morning we actually went right out. There's kind of a big drainage ditch went almost right out in the middle of the plains. So we crawled out there in the dark, and kind of as the sun came up, we were like literally surrounded by deer.
Wow.
And, it was amazing, and I ended up shooting a really big buck that day. They actually they charge by the size of the deer you shoot there, and what they do is they weigh the antlers.
They weigh them.
Yeah. So like anything over 4 kilograms would be like a 190 whitetail, right?
Yes.
And I got one that was over 4 kilograms. The price from 3.9 to 4 kilograms was quite substantial as well. But
what the hell? You're going to be buried with it? I mean,
well, I know. And in the scheme of things, like hunting in Eastern Europe is such good value right now. I know I was telling you earlier, when the first time I went over, I've got a buddy who books Eastern Europe. Like he's just nuts about it. And he said, let's go to Poland and hunt roe deer. It's $1,500. I'm like, okay, like what's the catch with this, right? Like you don't, he goes, no, it's like 3 days. That includes one deer. If you want to shoot more deer, it's just a small additional charge. I'm like, there's got to be a catch. He goes, no, none. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's go. So went over there and just fell in love with the place. And it was everything he promised and more.
And your accommodations, I understand, were pretty nice too.
Well, it was only a summer palace, but you know. But here's the really cool thing too. So we're in Poland, and Poland has one of the most tortured histories of any country in Eastern Europe. I mean, there were 6 million people murdered there, by the Nazis. Just most of them because they were smart people.
Yeah.
They killed the doctors. They killed
the teachers,
the lawyers, the teachers. Yeah, they wanted
lawyers. We understand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry. So the palace we were in had been taken over by the Nazis and was a field hospital. And then when the Russians came in, the Russians took it over and made it the command center. So, and this was only in the 40s. I mean, this is not old history.
Yeah, you were alive back then.
But that kind of stuff, you just you have to experience it, and unless you go hunting, I don't think you get to experience a lot of that stuff. You really get thrown into culture when you hunt. You go as a tourist, you get thrown into the tourist areas. You go as a hunter, you just get fired right into the middle of their culture. You're having coffee and tea with their parents. You're having dinner with their brother one night. That's the coolest thing to me.
Oh, I know. We haven't hunted Europe very much, but we did do ibex in Spain, and it was just the most remarkable thing. The culture, like, I mean, you were boom right into the culture. Suddenly, you're eating at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're showing up at the restaurant at 10 o'clock at night for supper, and they're looking at you like, why so early?
That's like the 4 o'clock Blue Plate special in Florida. Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember going up the stairs at one castle in Spain, and the stone stairs were dipped out like this from people walking on them.
Yeah. How many people walked on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of puts it all in perspective, but no, it's just, for me, it's just, I love that. I love feeling young. I mean, it's because I'm old, but not knowing things really makes you feel young again.
I find it amazing going to different places, Africa, New Zealand, and that kind of stuff, and seeing how they hunt.
Mm-hmm.
We often think that here in North America that we invented hunting, and that nobody does it as well as we do. But the guide that we had for the ibex hunt in Spain. Now, the fellow that owned the company and all that spoke English very, very well, but he wasn't of a build or a stature that could climb up the mountains to hunt with us. So we're
a little portly, was he?
Yeah, very portly. And so the guide and I, it was just the biggest joke ever. Me trying to express myself in Spanish, and him, and he had less English than I had Spanish, so it was hilarious. But to watch him and what was important in that, I mean, it was a big learning, because I was keying on him so hard because I couldn't talk to him, so I had to watch what he was doing in that and watching what was important. That's a big learning curve.
Well, and I remember when I shot my water buck in South Africa, it was probably one of the biggest epiphanies for me, like how dumb I was as a hunter. We saw a herd of water buck, and there was one really good bull in it. And so they all took off. So we tracked him through the sand for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. And there was tracks, and you know what it's like in Africa in the sand. There's tracks everywhere, and they look like holes. There's no distinct track from an animal.
Nope.
So about 2.5 hours in, the tracker and the PH start talking. He goes, we got to go back about 100 yards. He says, I think that bull broke off with 3 cows. And so at this point, Vanessa and I are like, okay, they're messing with the tourists. We're going to end up back at the truck. And it was a good hunt. So we get back and he goes, yeah, they broke off here. And like, to me, it's all holes in the sand. So we followed it. And long story short, I ended up shooting this magnificent water buck. It was the one we'd seen. So I asked him to explain to me, how did you tell those tracks? So he starts telling me, well, see how the shadow casts on this and the moisture's different here. And I was just like, no. There's like someone trying to explain nuclear physics to me at that point. And I was just like, you keep tracking. I'll just keep walking behind you at that point. But I mean, I have become a better tracker over the years, and I have learned a lot. And it's a lot of skills that apply here as well. But I'll never be on the scale of those guys.
No, no. And the best trackers that I've ever dealt with in Africa, and that I couldn't have a conversation with.
Yeah.
You know, like they would be the the tracker or the skinner from wherever you were hunting, and they're remarkable people. They understand more things about those animals and the animals' behavior, just like you and I breathe. I mean, it's that natural to them.
Yeah, like the Bushmen are probably the most legendary trackers of all of Africa, and they're the same people that painted those paintings 20,000 years ago of them killing the eland, right? So they got that 20, 30,000 year history of tracking things in the sand and killing with a spear. So yeah, they're going to be good at it.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing. So what's next?
So we're going to go to Africa for a month this year. We're going to do some different stuff over there. Going to just sit back and enjoy. But like we're taking some new people over who've never been. So that's always exciting, kind of seeing it through their eyes for the first time. We've got a hunt booked in England. Yeah. And for me, I've always wanted to hunt muntjac and Chinese water deer. And for people that don't have a clue what they are, muntjac are about this tall, but they're like a genetic throwback to an old time when deer still had fangs. So the muntjac actually have fangs, but also have little tiny antlers. And the Chinese water deer just have fangs. And they're not native to England, but they run free range and wild there.
Both the muntjac and the water deer?
Yeah.
Okay. Are both not native?
So I think the muntjac is from like Nepal, India, places like that, and then the Chinese water deer would be from China.
Right.
But at some point, the British had brought them over. Like they love to populate the world with all different animals. That's how everything ended up in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So and these things apparently they breed 2 or 3 times a year, and like the muntjac are always in rut. There's no rutting season for them.
Really?
So they're really prolific, and hunting them is really critical to their management. So, and I don't know why. I've just been fascinated by this genetic throwback. Like these are dinosaur deer, right?
Yeah.
And just to go hunt something like that to me is so cool. So, of course, a buddy of mine was over there about a month ago, and he got back and was just going on with the stories. So I got a hold of the outfitter he was with, and we're going next year.
Well, cool.
Yeah, and we'll do lots of hunting in Alberta. I mean, I still have a passion for the mountains. I still love hunting sheep, and we do a lot of backpacking in the mountains still.
I just bought a new pack today.
I mean, I hope that's something I can do for another 10 years. I mean, God willing, kind of thing. The body hangs in there, and that's still my biggest passion.
Absolutely. That connection, I think, keeps you young.
Yeah.
Being able to have that to look forward to every day. I'm pushing up on 60. I'll be 60 this year. I think the day after we get back from Africa.
Well, you're an old guy. Holy.
Yeah. You're 59 3/4.
A quarter.
But it's. I look at people, we just spent the last weekend, we were at the Wild Sheep Show here in Alberta, and I'm talking to guys, and this one guy saying, oh, he's getting too old for that, and I asked him, how old are you? And he said, well, he was 57. He was too old to hunt sheep anymore. I was like, I didn't say nothing. Yeah. No, so maybe he's the bright one. I don't know. Maybe.
But, if I didn't hunt sheep, I'd be like that portly guy in Spain you were talking about, right? That couldn't, I mean, that's what literally keeps me in shape and keeps me working all the time is that drive that I really want to hunt sheep. I'm kind of looking at maybe doing a blue sheep hunt in Nepal here in the next year or two.
Oh, wow.
I've got a few things that I still want to do. And, there's still really physical hunts.
Yeah. I'm very much, I'm enjoying it a lot more. I'm taking a much slower pace at it than I have. There was a time, I mean, when we were at our peak, probably 10 years ago in the show, we had a couple years there where we were 2 or 3 hunts per half hour. That's a lot of animals.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of animals.
And when the 4 of us were doing it, it was easier because we had 4 of us hunting. But now it's just Vanessa and I trying to get 13 shows filled.
That's the thing that people don't understand. What's your number one piece of advice? Somebody comes up to you and wants to have a TV show.
Get a good job first.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I say that in jest, but I also mean it seriously. It's not, you can't decide I want to have a TV show tomorrow. You and I both had good jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we had flexible jobs that made us enough money that gave us time to slowly kind of morph into this business. You just can't decide you're going to do it. We've seen so many 1 or 2 year wonders show up. I'm going to do a TV show. So, of course their first year is awesome. They've had 3 or 4 years to shoot it.
Yeah. They don't understand that.
Yeah. So second year comes along and it's like, holy man, I need a minimum of 13 hunts.
Yep.
That's 13 episodes makes up a series.
Yep.
So now I need a minimum 13 animals, and it could be a couple more if a couple is. You try and do that in Alberta. Like, we get so many people saying, geez, I wish you did more stuff in North America. And I'm like, yeah, I wish we did too. But, we only get so many tags and we're not 100% successful. We're hunting wild animals like everybody else. On a good year, we'll kill 6 or 8 animals in North America. That's still only half the shows we need. So it's just kind of, people need to open their minds a little bit. So you either bring in a lot of pro staff and guys hunting for the TV show, or, you have to travel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as the business side of it all goes, is that you have to make sure that you have a value, and that value is to your sponsor.
Oh, absolutely. And sponsors drive this industry. And, and some things irritate me. And I promised you I wouldn't get off on an irritation tangent, but I'm going to.
Here we go.
So I hate when people, somebody will ask a question online about a Zeiss scope or something, and I'll tell them, because it's what I use. I know it. I'm not talking about it because it's my sponsor. It's because what I use every day. I'm intimately familiar with it. But you're just talking about this because you're sponsor. No, I'm not. And we've been pretty true to that, even from the day we started. Pretty much every sponsor that I have on the TV show right now is a product I used for a year or two before I agreed to bring them on as a sponsor. If it's not a product I believed in, and maybe that's a luxury for me, I don't know, but I would not ever have a product as a sponsor that I didn't believe 100% in. And I don't have those products because they pay me money. I have products because I believe in that product, I use that product, and I endorse that product. And yes, the money does help pay the bills, but that's not the first criteria in choosing a sponsor.
A lot of people don't understand that. And I'm out like this. We've done it now. We're doing it for 20 years. I can't take the time to pretend.
No.
And that's what it would amount to, if I'm wearing a pair of boots or using a scope or whatever, it has to be the real deal, because I'm going to use it every day. When you're doing a sheep hunt or whatever, it isn't like you can just pretend what you were using, because the TV product that comes out of the sheep hunt, you might have a dozen days there, over 3 trips or whatever, and different clothing, different all that kind of stuff. It has to be the same thing in your hand all the time, right?
Oh, totally.
You can't pretend.
No, when you can't pretend, but you also rely on it.
Absolutely rely on it. Like the Argo that we use in trapping, the gear that we use in trapping, and on the show, that stuff is just every day for me. We've had offers from stuff that I didn't think would fill the bill, and I don't even want to try, because I know that this gets the job done, whether I'm sponsored by it or not.
Yeah. Well, I know when you and I were doing the show, we turned people down who wanted to give us money.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't believe in the product. And, when we were over in New Zealand a couple of years ago, we ended up meeting the manufacturer of some really good New Zealand clothing over there. And just a one guy operation kind of. He's got a lot of employees, but he's still the owner. It's not a big public company or anything. And started going through their products and going, oh my God, there's so much in North America that we don't know about clothing to some degree, because they get 300 inches of rain in places over there, and so they're going to know what rain gear. So we started working with them a little bit too, and just wow, there's so much stuff out there. And we used their products for I think 3 years before, we had and then they decided they were going to maybe move over to North America, so then we kind of became a good choice for them to work with. But it was just, when you find good stuff, you appreciate it. And I know, we've lost a couple sponsors over the years for different reasons. They went different directions or something like that, and it always hurts me because I don't know how I'm going to replace it. Well, I loved it.
That's just it. You don't want to replace it,
exactly,
because you're so familiar with it, and you're so used to it. You don't want to learn something else. There's been a couple that you just walk away, and that segment just stays open because you don't want to.
Yeah, I'll just keep using. Just keep using it.
Yeah, you using even though you're no longer sponsored by it. Yeah. Well, bud, it has been a pleasure. It's always a good time.
And I was going to say, speaking of good times, we've never been thrown out of a bar or a hotel for a fight, but we have maybe been thrown out of one or two for laughing too hard a couple times, if you recall.
What was it? Drift Pile? No. What was it? What was the place called? She cut us off after one beer.
Yeah, because we were laughing too much.
She thought we were just drunk as could be, and it's like, no, ma'am, this is just us.
We've had hotel security show up a couple times to shut the party down, and
It's just us talking about the day.
no, I want to thank you for having me here. It's been awesome, and yeah,
It's our pleasure. It's been a long time coming. We've we just started this podcast so recently, but it's great to be able to talk to everybody. You know, there's so many different facets, not even just of the outdoors, just of life that we want to talk with people. But I enjoy having these conversations, and people enjoy listening to them. So
yeah, we've all got something in common.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hope you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed talking with you, bringing it to you, and maybe we'll see you out in the line.